Hello there, everybody. It's me, Garrett Kidney, the co-host of You've Got to Be Kidding Me on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network.
And I am Liam Jones, my full name, and I'm also a part of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network as a co-host for You've Got to Be Kidding Me.
We are a TNA history podcast that covers TNA 1 month at a time. We cover all the drama, all the matches, all the Vince Russo nonsense you could ever want in your life.
Have you heard of TNA? I bet you have, but would it be funnier if two people made jokes over it the whole time? Probably.
So if that sounds like fun to you, check it out on this very Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network, and Liam will do bits and whatnot.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Competition starting to get thick, it's a click, so I hope you watch your A-game. A-man, no rains on the track when we unite and spit. This is an A-game, better bring your A-game. Competition starting to get thick, it's a click, so I hope you watch your A-game. A-man, no rains on the track.
Hey, now it's the Mike and JD show, and I'm your host, Mike Gilbert, and I'm joined as always by JD by Godaliva. How you doing, JD?
I'm pretty good, man. I had a good laugh before the show. I teach Photoshop, right? That's my big class. That's the big class I have, Graphics 1, right? I'm teaching. We got a project, and I'm working with layer masks. You're blending images together using a layer mask and a brush. So you're doing that stuff. I had a kid who's doing a WWE theme project, right? And he goes, Mr. Oliva, can you come check out my project? So I do this all the time with kids. I go to their desks, I look at what they're doing. And he's kind of doesn't get the assignment. So I'm like, all right, so I grab his mouse. I'm like, all right, man, let me show you. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to move Roman over here. Then we're going to take Bianca, move him here. We're going to take Cody and do this and da-da-da. And he goes, do you watch wrestling? And I said, do I watch wrestling? You need to Google my name and pro wrestling.
Yeah. And
you'll get it. And then he came back to his desk and he goes, the Mike and JD show? Oh. And I gave him a wink and I said, don't listen to it. I'll get fired. So he laughed. So yeah, I outed myself in the middle of class today.
Does he have $5 for Patreon? That'd be weird.
He can't show up for class on time. I don't think he's got money for anything, quite frankly.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
Yeah. How are you?
Good, man. Good. So I've had a weird week because like this baby is coming any day. And because of that, to prepare, the bosses stopped giving me stuff to do. So I wrote, I don't know how many words, but I would say it's pretty close to 1,000 words on TNA this week for the Patreon. And I was just like, yeah, I was like, I didn't think I had it in me, but I had a lot to say about, cause I had reported on my show on Brace for Impact on the Patreon. Go to patreon.com/the Mike and JD show. I reported on there because, we got Dobby the Brain Heenan, big member of the BFI Nation, and he does all the seat counting and stuff for TNA shows for me. And he was reporting the numbers. And so he had estimated that Victory Road in San Antonio did like 1,800 seats. Well, then Lance Storm came out. Well, so then on the broadcast, they announced 2,000. Then Lance Storm came out and said 2,100. Dave Meltzer reported 2,100. So I'm like, okay, well, what Dobby wasn't able to account for is the fact that it was a GA section. They had all the seats put on there, but you can't account like for who's sitting where and this and that. And that they actually had expanded the seats, right? And so I was like, oh, okay, wow, they actually expanded the seats. They did 2,100 tickets, which is pretty huge for TNA for a show that had literally a 2-week build, and half of them were all rematches. But so they did a really good job with it. And so I had this idea for an article because, naturally I think everybody's going to give credit to the NXT relationship for those numbers. And I was like, yeah, they do deserve a lot of credit, but they did have some pretty big houses earlier in the year before the NXT thing. So I actually detailed that out. And what the conclusion is that while yes, the NXT partnership is probably the biggest driver of tickets, it's because the TNA stars are getting over on NXT television and bringing back that fame to TNA. And so that was kind of the whole article. And I did probably over 1,000 words on that. So you guys go ahead and go check it out, especially if you're a TNA fan. I'd really appreciate it. And then of course, provide some feedback on it. I don't think anywhere on the net has the ticket sale information, both reported, estimated, and even the WrestleTix information all in one place like I have. So please go out of your way to check that out. Speaking of Patreon, so JD, have you even started the Vince doc yet?
No, I was going to watch this weekend.
Okay. I was able to actually finish that this morning. So if you guys are here to hear us talk about the Vince doc, JD hasn't watched it yet. So we're actually going to do that in overtime this coming up weekend. We're very likely to record on Sunday night, be in your inboxes on Monday morning, probably like depending on where you're like what time zone you're in. You'll very likely be asleep by the time I get it all uploaded and get all the SEO and all that stuff in there. So I'm very much looking forward to your reaction to it. But guys, if you're here to talk about Vince, we're not really going to talk about that documentary too much. But if you do have something that you want to ask one of us, because JD knows the history just as well as anybody else, go ahead and throw it in the chat. If you want to get your super chats in, go ahead and do that. But we'll go ahead and get the show started, man. So
what's your overall vibe on the doc? Did you enjoy it? Was it a hard watch? Was it like entertaining?
It was everything that you just mentioned. It was very entertaining at times. Somewhat educational. I did know just about everything that he talked about because you got to remember this is for Netflix, so they're introducing this to like a bigger and newer audience, right? So they did have to rehash some stuff. But I thought it was very entertaining. I thought it was pretty hard hitting. I thought they were pretty brutal to Vince.
Really? We thought a softball was coming their way. Is that not what happened?
That is not what happened. No.
Nice.
In fact, Vince was super pissed about it. He actually put out a press release the day before it came out. Yeah, he was super pissed. And then in like episode 6, and I don't want to spoil anything, but in episode 6, they interview Bruce Pritchard in January of this year before the Janelle Grant lawsuit gets filed. They interview him after showing him the first 4 episodes. And they go, can you give us your honest opinion on the show? And he goes off on those guys about how they buried Vince and how he didn't like them for that, and they were not fair to him, and they don't know the man that he knows, and that he's got a good heart, and you guys just went out of your way to bury the guy. And they did bury him, but what they did, and look, and I don't want to go down this rabbit hole because I have a lot to say about this Vince talk, but just to give you guys a preview of what we're going to talk about in overtime, any good documentary will give the subject, no matter how evil they are, the chance to tell their story. Mm-hmm. And they will give the subjects, people in his peer group, people that maybe have his back or her back, they'll get a chance to tell their side of the story. But then you also get the other side of the story from the people that were covering them, the victims and things like they had archive information about some of the victims, Tom Cole, Rita Chatterton, all those things. I felt like it was really balanced, to be honest with you.
Really?
And so I'm actually looking forward to hearing what you got to say. I got to commend, Dave Meltzer was, I think, awful announcing, like did a story, and they, named him as like the star of the show. And I thought he was one of the stars of the shows. I thought Eric Bischoff was very good. I thought Bret Hart was very good. Believe it or not, David Schumacher was actually pretty good. Really? Like he did not let up on Vince at all. Like, and all the interviews were done before the Janelle Grant lawsuit was filed. So I was honestly very much surprised at how balanced it was.
Here's the thing about Dave, right? And I know it's become kind of an in vogue thing to shit on Dave, but there's a reason why Dave Meltzer is Dave Meltzer. And there's a reason why he's far eclipsed Wade Keller I hate this phrase, but as far as the space goes, right? Is that Dave is very good at what he does. And he also has a certain charisma to him, right? There's a uniqueness to Dave Meltzer. And having spent just a little bit of time with the guy, I can kind of see it. Like there's a vibe to the guy that makes him super interesting, especially in these kind of forums, right? Yeah. Where he's allowed just to totally Dave out. So the fact that you said that makes this 10 times more intriguing. Dude, I'll be honest with you, before Vince publicly crapped on this thing and before you said this, I was not looking forward to watching this. I didn't think Bill Simmons had the testicular fortitude to go after Vince and TKO and WWE. I really didn't. I thought they were just gonna gloss over everything, which I think was probably what Vince thought they were gonna do.
Yes.
And they didn't. Yeah. So I'm looking more forward now to this than I was a week ago.
Yeah, I think Vince thought it was gonna be a puff piece. Mm-hmm. Even though he told them not to do puff piece. I think he thought that he was gonna get away with it. I think he had handlers in the room with him, helping him, Paul Heyman being one of them, to kind of feed him answers and stuff so he doesn't get himself in trouble. And he still got himself in trouble. So I don't want to reveal anything because I don't want to spoil anything for you. I'm very much looking forward to hearing your thing. There's one thing that they didn't do that I wish they did do. And I will tell you that as soon as you're done watching it. And I think we'll be on the same page.
Okay.
By the time you finish it, you'll be like, yeah, I think they missed this.
Okay.
Now, it was a 6-hour documentary. It probably could have been 15 hours, to be honest with you.
Man.
Yeah, well, it wasn't only just Vince McMahon. It was like the history of the WWE from the Vince McMahon era on.
I mean, you have to do that. I mean, the life of Vince McMahon is the history of WWE. Like the two are one and the same.
Yeah. One of the takeaways, other than the fact that I thought it was a really good documentary, one of the takeaways that I had early on in watching it was the thing that I loved growing up is very fucking creepy. Just like, it's like you just, and I already knew the stories, but then you see them play out again, and the way that they edited it and the production quality that they had, and then hearing from some of the people that were involved, it's just like, oh my God, what a scummy fucking business that we love.
So what you're telling me is this isn't going to push me back into watching WWE wrestling.
No, and I think some people thought that was the aim of it. They didn't do that. So, in fact, which is weird from given that WWE is going to be on Netflix going forward. But
to be fair, this documentary was probably completed before the Netflix deal was even set. So so it was mostly completed. They ended up adding stuff afterwards, but yeah, it was already in the can, ready to go, and then they kept having to extend it out. So, but they did talk about the WWE signing with Netflix after Vince had left. So. Yeah, I mean, that's the WWE playbook right now, is bad man gone. Bad man gone. We're good now. We're fine now. We're forgetting the fact that Bruce Pritchard's still there. Forgetting the fact that Triple H is actually related to the guy. Yeah. And covered for him numerous times. So
Bruce Pritchard, I'll be surprised if he makes it the rest of the year after this.
Wow.
So he came off that bad.
Was Nick Khan in the documentary?
No.
He's too smart for that. He's too smart for that.
Yeah, they did interview Nick. They interviewed all the McMahons. They interviewed obviously Triple H, Bruce Pritchard, and then of course all the cast of characters that you would typically get. Tony Atlas, I thought, was pretty funny on it, although he's always good in these because I don't think he's very truthful, but he's just funny. Like the way he tells stories is pretty funny, although he did make some accusations at Pat Patterson that one Pat LaPrade is not very happy with. So that's becoming a controversy. Again, I will let you figure out what that is. But
I can put two and two together.
Yeah.
Tony Atlas does have some great stories. This is interesting. Interesting. Okay, I'm in.
Right. Well, I think the Vince doc. Sorry, bless you. I think the Vince doc took a little bit of the shine off of Grand Slam a little bit, but that was a pretty big event. I thought it was a pretty decent show. I didn't think it was as good as some of the other Grand Slams. They did have a really good match on it, but it just didn't feel as big as the previous ones. I mean, of course, the attendance is down a little bit, but
I mean, it wasn't. I really like the Nigel Bryan match.
Me too.
To start with, like, I think it was cool to see that Nigel, a guy who had his dreams taken away from him a decade ago, a guy who it's such a great story. This is why I kind of brush up people say, well, I don't tell stories in AEW. I'm like, the Nigel McGuinness thing is great. Like, he's jealous. Like, him and Bryan were peers. Like, they were 1A and 1B for the longest time, and then Bryan became a superstar, and Nigel had to retire. And like, that's like the best foundation for a bitter villain, right?
Yeah,
I thought it was great. Like, and I thought, and to see that Nigel still has it, like watching them just exchange wrist locks for like 3 straight minutes. I'm like, these two are having the best time doing this. I'm like, they are loving life so much right now. Like,
they've never done that match, them two together in a venue that big. With even though I know sales are down, but they're still over 8,000 strong in that building. Like, that was very much the biggest match those two have had together, I would assume, right?
Dude, 8,000 people for an AEW show this year is a good crowd. I know in that stadium it's not the best because you can get a lot more in there, and they have gotten more in there, but the company's a little bit cold right now, very cold right now. But this is what they got to do. They just got to crank out good shows, and it wasn't a bad show. It was a little flat till the end, I thought. But I mean, it wasn't bad by a stretch of the imagination, I think.
Yeah. I know. I didn't think it was a bad show at all. But like you, I really liked the Nigel McGuinness, Bryan Danielson match. I was not a Ring of Honor guy. So the first time people are going to start logging out and probably blocking me on Twitter when I say this, but the first time I ever saw Nigel McGuinness,
You're the TNA guy.
He was Desmond Wolfe.
I knew
right?
you were going to say that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then I ended up going back and watching some of the Nigel McGuinness. I was like, wow, this guy's really fucking good.
He is really good.
And then when he signed with WWE, I was hoping that he would actually get to wrestle there on NXT, but he ended up just being their announcer. And for my money, he's the best play-by-play announcer that there is right now. I don't think there's anybody better than him. I happen to be a fan of Wade Barrett. I think he's pretty good anytime I hear him. But other than that, I don't think there's that many good color commentators out there, and I think Nigel's the best.
No, I think Nigel's the best color guy the AEW has for sure. Like, the fact that he gets relegated to Collision, which I get, you need to have good people on that show. You can't crap on it completely. But I particularly enjoy Nigel's work more than I like Kevin's more than I like Excalibur or Tony or Taz right now. Definitely more than Kevin Kelly, actually. But I mean, like, I like Nigel. I like that he got to have. I don't know where this goes for him. If he's going to work again, or if this is it, if that was retirement. If it is, it was a good way to go out.
It was, part of me wants to see him do it, keep going and keep wrestling. But there's also the part of me that understands where AEW is at and where he is at in his career. I think it's actually smarter for him to continue on with his commentary deal and just keep doing commentary. And maybe if he wants to come out of retirement once or twice a year, but I don't see him like overstepping a lot of the people that they have on that roster. He's still very good, but he's got to be 45, 46 years old.
Yeah, probably somewhere on there. Here's what I was are you familiar with the Piper Soli Morocco angle from Georgia in 81, I believe?
Oh, I am, but please explain.
So, okay. I believe it's 81 on TBS. Piper, like everyone gives Jesse Ventura the credit for being the first heel color commentator. That's not true. Piper pioneered that on TBS, right? So national cable, right, with the satellite. But because it wasn't in WWF, it doesn't get the credit. So, but people watched it. Like people were watching a lot of that. So I get tired of the men's apologies. Anyway, so they had this angle where Morocco had been infuriating Gordon. So like Mason Morocco had came after Gordon Soley. Gordon is the most beloved play-by-play man in the world, like in the country at the time. Everybody loved Gordon Soley, like especially because TBS had that reach everywhere. So, and Soley's partner was Piper, and Piper was doing the heel commentator thing way before Jesse Ventura was. Well, they did a thing, and if you ever watch WCW, I mean the World Championship Wrestling TV show, they always had the guys come out to the podium to cut their promos, and usually Gordon was right there with them. Well, Morocco comes at Gordon and starts getting really aggressive with Gordon. And Piper has had enough. And the two of them start shouting at each other. And then Piper beats Morocco's ass. And that brings out Ole Anderson a week later. And then Piper gets into it with Ole. Now, at that point, Piper is a full-blown babyface.
Yeah.
Like, and this is because this is what happened with Jesse, too, is when you're such a great heel commentator, you become beloved.
Right. Yeah, and that because Piper was just so entertaining. He was the originator of that position, and he was also the number 2 heel in the company behind Ole, right? Because he was still wrestling at the time too. So he would wrestle and do commentary. It wasn't like today where like if somebody was the color commentator, that's all that they did. Like they would kind of rotate people in and out. Gordon was the constant, but Piper did it a lot, but he wasn't like the only guy that was doing that.
Yeah, he was just the most popular. He was what people loved.
Yeah, and he was the number 2. He ends up does a full babyface turn. I think they got to them. Then they got to the match, but Piper quickly left and went to Mid Atlantic, right?
Piper rode that wave of fame to Crockett, where he feuded with Flair, had a couple runs with the U.S. title as a babyface, and Piper runs that. So this is like a 2-year Piper babyface run, because when you go back to the first Starrcade '83, again that's Crockett, Piper and Valentine are fighting for the U.S. title in the dog collar match. Piper's a babyface.
Yeah,
so he wins that match in November, like Thanksgiving weekend '83. By January of '84, he's a heel manager in WWF.
Yeah,
right,
because they had seen him on TBS the year prior. It was like we could bring that up here and get that over, and sure as shit they did. Of course, Piper was one of the all-time great guys on the microphone.
So my thought is you could do that. Now that you've established that Nigel could come back,
Yeah.
You can do that. You can absolutely do that with Nigel. And I think because people know and like and respect Nigel, I think if you reran that angle, you could do something really cool because they haven't done that in AEW really.
No,
You know?
they did it a couple of times in WWE. I think they did it with Taz and Jerry Lawler one time,
Mhm.
which I think did get over, but just Taz couldn't go anymore at that point, so I don't
Right.
think they ever did much with it.
And launched Taz's announcing career is what really did what that whole
Yeah.
angle really did.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really all they did. But you know, in the close of the match, he was tapping out and he was saying thank you, thank you, thank you. But they bleeped it out, assuming he said fuck
you.
Which honestly, for the censors, like great assumption.
Yeah,
like
I get it.
So,
I mean, you. It's very easy to make that because who says thank you after being in a submission? Like the fuck you makes much more sense. But it's knowing that and knowing the story behind it, where Nigel, it's very Balboa, right?
yeah,
It's very Rocky Balboa. He just wanted one more round. He wanted one more shot at the champ.
yeah.
You know, one more time to prove that he could. And it was a 30-minute match. It was a good 30-minute match. So
it was.
I think
It wasn't like the modern style that you would normally see, and that's why I liked it.
Me too.
Because it was more of a throwback type of match to a different era. Kind of the era, I'm not going to say his name. I'll say Fit Finlay. I won't say the other guy that also wrestled kind of like Fit Finlay, the Canadian guy that did the horrible things. But it kind of reminded me of one of those types of matches. You know what I mean? As opposed to what we ended up seeing like 10 minutes later, your typical AEW match, where you get four guys doing every fucking move in the arsenal and kicking out of everything and just making the crowd go crazy. It was a completely different match. And I really liked both matches differently because of how different they were. And I thought they were both awesome.
I think this is the strength of AEW is the willingness to do different styles of matches within the same show. One of my issues with WWE is everything feels very formulaic, and that's what they want. They want guys to work that WWE style. They have a whole developmental territory because of it, because they want you fitting what you do into their style. What makes AEW cool is you do get the typical AEW high fly, high spot style. Then you're going to get some lucha. Then you're going to get some brawling. Then you get some garbage wrestling. Then you're going to get some mat stuff. And then you get this thing, which is essentially, I kind of looked at it as like a World of Sport throwback a little bit, like definitely inspired by the World of Sport stuff. And then it kind of evolves into like that mat-based Ring of Honor early 2000s style that Bryan and Nigel were known for. And like, it was pretty great. They did a callback to the spot where Nigel gets his head busted open, but this time Nigel was smart enough to take it on the shoulder and not on his face like an idiot. So it was like I saw I'm like, if Nigel does this again, I'm gonna reach through my TV and hit this man. He was smart enough to actually work the headbutt this time. Like, okay, so we've seen some personal growth.
If he headbutted the ring post, somebody from AEW, like one of the referees, would be like, "Well, we shaved the ring post down." It was completely safe.
They probably would do that. And now that you've spoken that into the ether, I'm sure someone is listening in the room, and that will be a thing.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed the match. I do think that we have another interest in Nigel. I do think they should plot that out at some point and do the Piper angle with him. So, suggestion.
Yeah. What'd you think of the Young Bucks versus Fletcher and Ospreay?
Hot take?
Yeah.
I'm bored with the Young Bucks, man.
So am I. Yeah, I watched the match. I very much enjoyed the match.
I agree.
Don't get me wrong, because when they wrestle, they're still the best out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Kyle Fletcher, and we already know what Ospreay is, but Kyle Fletcher, this motherfucker, he
can go. Tony loves to beat people before he pushes them, so I do think they're going to do something big with Kyle Fletcher, and I think they should. The kid's immensely talented.
Yeah. I
just can't get invested in a Young Bucks match right now.
Same here. Like I said, it was a really great match. You can give it all the stars you want. They don't matter. The shitty part is I did not really care about the outcome. Nope. I didn't care going into it, but I still very much enjoyed it, if that makes sense.
I'm the same boat. I can look at it and I can go, this is a good match, technically speaking. Like, it's enjoyable. The crowd's into it. I'm so cold on Matthew and Nicholas Jackson right now. I found myself playing with my phone a lot of time in that match. Like, they had a hard time keeping my attention span, to be honest with you. And I love Will Ospreay. I don't know, when the Bucks show up for stuff lately, and I'm not trying to be Jim Cornette or like that. I just have a hard time being invested because I think this whole elite run the company thing completely petered out and it never really made sense. And I don't think they're doing a very good job with this, quite frankly.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And not only that, John Moxley is coming in with his new version of the BCC and is doing a takeover much better
Much
than
better.
than what the Young Bucks and Okada were doing.
Mhm.
And so that's the interesting storyline. No matter what they do, just no matter how many things they kick out of, I really just don't care at this point.
I've seen it, man. Like
Yeah.
I've seen it before, and I know the Bucks are trying to do something else, but I mean, like at the end of the day, like some guy wrote this big article, and I think it was King of the North actually tagged me in this, and it was like this big thing of why he just can't get into Kenny Omega matches, and I'm like, this dude's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, but everything he said about Omega, it's like that's how I feel about the Young Bucks.
Yes. Yeah. So maybe the guy is not crazy. Maybe he's seeing something that we're just not seeing. I didn't read that, by the way. There's too many words. But
Oh, far too much. And he wrote it. It looked like he wrote it on a Smith Chrono typewriter. So I
Yeah.
mean, like it was. I mean, fine. Everyone can have their opinion. I'm not pooping in a guy's opinion. I'm just saying, like, I think Kenny Omega matches are great. I think Kenny Omega does get people emotionally invested. Those Kenny Omega John Moxley matches had heat, were fun, were awesome. We saw what he did with Moose and TNA. Like, I think every time Kenny gets in the ring, it's something special. I don't feel, and I used to feel that way about the Young Bucks, but I just don't anymore. They're so stale.
Yeah, they are. Speaking of the Young Bucks, transferring heat has a good point. Let's go ahead and talk about this right now. So after, I guess the next morning, after the match was over, they're traveling. And guess who they run into? This guy, one of the stars of the McMahon documentary,
All Elite Wrestling's Shane McMahon.
Shane O'Mac himself. I mean, they're teasing it so much, like you would think it's going to happen, but then there's a part of me that's like they're teasing it so much because it's not actually going to happen.
It's possible. I mean, that's actually right up their alley.
Yeah.
You know, that's actually something that they would do. I don't know, man. I mean, like I was more open to this than most people were, but I'll tell you what threw me. That's the next big surprise that we had on the show is surprise, quote unquote, is the arrival of MVP. And I assume the Hurt Syndicate, I think they're gonna call
Hurt
them.
Syndicate, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, and I like MVP, you know, like
Me too.
we're TNA guys. MVP's a great promo, great story about a guy who got his life on track and, you know, fixed everything. So, I mean, like, I like his story. I think he's very talented as a manager. And I love having managers. I like the idea of him and Nana having issues over Swerve. I'm like, oh, you know, that makes sense. That's good. But I'm kind of like, do we need to do this again with Shane? Like, it's still a WWE guy coming in. Like,
Yeah. And look, and I think we say this on our old TNA podcast. I try not to discriminate against somebody based on where they used to work.
Mhm.
Right. Like I think that's weird. However, it's getting really bad in this company where they're just continuing to take acts off of the other show and try to freshen them up a little bit and bring that act over. Especially if that act had a grievance against their former boss. So they kind of want to get some of that attention on them. But I'm like, you guys really you're focusing on the wrong people. Like MVP is like almost 50. Bobby Lashley is almost 50. Shelton Benjamin's almost 50. And you're going to bring 3 guys who are getting close to having their AARP cards. That doesn't mean they can't go. They still can. I think Bobby Lashley looks like he's 35.
Mhm.
But the fact of the matter is they're just stale acts from the federation that you're bringing over on your TV show. And you're going to be taking TV time away from some fresh faces that maybe you should be really getting behind to push forward. Because I'm telling you right now, MVP and Bobby Lashley, as much as I love them, they're not going to draw a single dollar for AEW. It's just not going to happen. So essentially, you're just going to be bringing them in, and it's going to be a net negative. But look, he's a fucking billionaire. Spend all the money you want, dude. But I'm just not interested in it on my television.
I'm kind of with you on this one. If the plan is that Swerve just beats these guys, right? They come in to deal with Swerve, and Swerve deals with them, and they're able to take their presence and channel it into one of AEW's young, specifically black stars.
Yeah.
I could open up to that a little more. I can't think of who that would be off the top of my head. I mean, like, I don't know if like Lee Johnson or Lee Moriarty has that level of charisma. Like, and Shane Taylor kind of does his own thing, and Shane Taylor's not young either. So I mean, like,
chicken. I do have a soft spot for the infantry. I like those guys.
I do too. But
but we all know why I have a soft spot for them. So which makes sense. I'm not saying that they're not talented. They are. I keep waiting for that guy EJ Nduka to break through and do something on television.
That's the guy. EJ did a thing with Swerve a couple weeks ago that kind of he showed up and then kind of went nowhere. That might be the move, to be quite honest with you. Okay,
Yeah.
now that you've said that, that actually could be a thing. Like if you use the Hurt Syndicate to launch EJ Nduka, that could work. And that would be the only thing that I would be on board with, because that guy looks like money and you should try.
He looks like he's the only guy in wrestling right now. Like, there's other guys that have that are like bigger and more muscular, but he's like a modern day Lex Luger.
Yeah.
The guy shredded. Now, can he go? And I don't know, because I have not seen him wrestle in AEW. I think I saw 2 matches when he was in MLW, but I have not seen a single match since he's been in AEW. And so and like, there's probably a reason for that. Maybe the guy just can't go. I don't know.
It's possible, but you should still try. Like, just look at the dude. Like, a guy who looks like that deserves a crack. I mean, I'll be honest with you, they gave it to Jade for a year.
They did.
Like, they tried really hard with Jade. She wound up getting springboarded to WWE, and she's not what we were all told it was going to be, but she's doing fine. You know, she's fine. So I think that you should try with EJ, because I mean, like, I think that this company looks down upon star presence sometimes in favor of work rate. And like, if everybody has work rate, then nobody has work rate. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that you need some. It's okay to have some guys that are body guys, you know, that can do something. Like,
it's the thing we talked about with Sid a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
he didn't have to be a work rate guy. Let him fill a specific role. Let him be, like Sid was, like, he's your crazy guy who's a bad motherfucker, and he doesn't need to have 30-minute classics, you know?
I'm okay with this. I'm okay. I mean, like, that's kind of thing people like go, oh, they dropped the ball with the Wardlow. I'm like, I don't know. Wardlow really wasn't that good and didn't have much charisma. Like, he really didn't. Like, he got over because he was just beating the shit out of people, because that always works. That always works. When you have a big guy who goes out there and murders people, it gets over. It always gets over. So if you do that with EJ Nduka and you surround him with Lashley and Shelton Benjamin MVP, that could give him some bona fides to launch him. And if that is the plan, and have him work with Swerve that way, I could do it. I mean, that's what it should be. Older stars should be used to help get younger stars over. Yeah. The person is Will Hobbs. Will Hobbs had surgery, my man. Will Hobbs is not ready to come back.
I think he might be on his way back, though.
Okay, if he is, okay, I change that back. If Will Hobbs is ready to go, yes, that person is Will Hobbs.
Yeah,
because he does have charisma. He does have working ability. It seemed like they were ready to do something with him, and he got hurt. Because anytime you're working with Moxley, it's like they take you seriously.
Yeah. They were definitely finally getting behind the guy. It just kind of
bad luck.
Yeah, just bad luck. Ended up not working out. Main event of Grand Slam was Darby Allin and Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley got the victory here, so it looks like we're finally they've only been pushing it for a few weeks now, but we're gonna get Bryan Danielson versus Jon Moxley. It's a WrestleDream. What do you think we do there, man? Are we gonna take the belt off Danielson already?
Danielson needs surgeries.
Yeah, but I was like, I thought they would probably drag that out to the end of the year, because I don't know how true all of this is with how hurt he is. I'm sure he is hurt, but if he really needed neck surgery that bad, he would not have won the world title.
I disagree with that. I think I think Bryan retiring as the world champion means more than Bryan just retiring, especially retiring in Tacoma, Washington.
Yeah.
Like, I think Mox is their hottest character right now. I think you need to put that title on Mox and build somebody. I think Darby is following in the footsteps of his mentor and is now the dumbest babyface in all of professional wrestling. But it kind of fits because he's Sting. He Sting's mentee, and that's a move Sting would have pulled. So okay, I could accept that. And then again, I think that Darby's role right now is to have that constantly taken away from him. Like, get close, don't quite get there. And when he does get there, it is going to mean something. Like, I think that is the right role. I think Darby could get maybe the guy to take the title off of Moxley, but Moxley's doing something interesting right now. And I think you need to put him and they have been. I think they just need to put him at the forefront of the show and let Bryan heal a little bit. And I think Bryan could work well too in coming in here and there.
Yeah, he could be a special attraction coming in for a couple big shows a year, whether that be AEW or anywhere else. I think he's probably going to be sticking around AEW.
I think he's going to stick around AEW because he's in the room. Him and Tony are tight right now. I think AEW just fits with his aesthetic of what he thinks pro wrestling should be more than WWE right now. And I honestly don't know if Bryan and Hunter are, simpatico. I don't think there's beef, but I don't know if they're like, boys. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I've never heard him say anything bad about any of them over there.
But you don't hear him say much about Triple H to begin with.
Yeah.
And I know they did have some headbutting over the literally they'd have some headbutting over the years where it seems like he will praise Vince, but I don't think I've ever heard him praise Paul.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever heard that.
Yeah,
Let's see what else we got. Oh yeah, man, big news here. You guys in the chat, I really want to hear what your thoughts are on this. AEW almost lost one of their top stars, but thankfully at the final bell, at the final hour, they were able to re-sign former AEW World Champion Saraya to a 1-year contract extension. Sean Ross Sapp revealed that Saraya had been in talks with AEW about her future, and the company had an option year on her original contract. However, it appears that the current agreement is a separate new deal. Saraya, she's sticking around, JD. We're not losing Saraya, guys. You can rejoice now. You can stop your prayers, and you can give them to somebody else.
Tony is a loyal dude. It's all like I never seen a man love his employees, and Tony. If you are loyal to Tony, Tony will love you forever. They did an angle with Kip Sabian last night.
Yeah, I keep forgetting that guy's still there.
I know he's like he's just around. Like the White Sox had this guy named Minnie Minoso who played from like the 50s. Like he played in one game from like the 50s to the 90s every year. He just stayed with the organization, and they just kept him around. And like that's like Kip Sabian. Like,
yeah,
I don't know why we're still making him a thing. It's like Tony is loyal to that first crop of guys that he signed, and we'll just like him and Sammy Guevara. They'll just keep those guys around and make sure they're employed forever. And for Kip Sabian, it's great. Don't rock the boat. Don't cause trouble. You got a job.
It's like a Gorilla Monsoon and Arnold Skolin for Vince Sr. It's like
the Gorilla stayed with Vince Jr. too to the day he died. So I mean, like there's people like that ingratiate themselves that are well liked that stay around forever. Look at we talked about Bruce Pritchard. Bruce Pritchard had to bring a gun to work to get fired. I mean, he did, and he made his way back eventually.
Yeah. But yeah, when I saw that her contract was coming up due, I just assumed they were going to let her walk because I just can't see the value in keeping her around. Like, I don't really think that she adds anything. I don't think that she fits with the company at all. But I don't know what this is other than the fact that, yeah, you're right. It's probably like Tony is like friends with her. And it's like, well, I don't want to see her like retire. So let me just keep paying this lady.
Harley Cameron is with her, and she has proven to be quite talented. Like
she's more talented than Saraya
in the ring, personality wise. Yeah. Like Harley Cameron is, and they had this woman under, and they're starting to figure out what they can do with her. Like she's really entertaining. Harley Cameron 25, 30 years ago would have been a valet and have been a very successful one.
Yeah.
So I mean, like she's talented. Like, but they're keeping Saraya around. I mean, like, I don't know. Sometimes you just like people, I guess.
So he even hired Saraya's brothers. This transferring heat. Yeah, I remember. I don't know which brother. The guy got himself in shape. So
Zach Zodiac. He's in Ring of Honor. I mean, like,
yeah,
Ring of Honor needs bodies, I guess, if we ever figure out what we're gonna do with that. The TV deal hasn't been announced yet.
I mean, they have to be announcing it for the 5th anniversary, which is kind of something that we had heard a couple months ago too. But I was like, they can't possibly be waiting that long. And sure enough, they're still waiting.
Here we are. I can't wait to stop talking about this TV deal. We've been talking about this thing for 2 freaking years. I just want to move forward.
This is the first week in a while we're not going to talk about it, although
we just did it.
Sorry. Daniel Garcia's AEW future is in question. The confidence surrounding Daniel Garcia re-signing with AEW isn't as strong as it was a month ago. Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer Radio reported that the strong belief within AEW that Garcia would resign has weakened, though nothing is confirmed yet. His contract is expiring soon. Ibu from WrestlePura said WWE is horny to sign Daniel Garcia. I don't know what that means, but man, he's holding out for more money, man, and God bless him. Make the billionaires pay for you because whatever he's getting, I don't know that they'll get the return on investment. That's not to say he's not a great talent. He is, but this guy might be making big time dough coming up here pretty soon.
For a mid-carder, it's impressive. I know WWE wants another win over AEW. I know all your WWE fans, they like to pretend like they don't care. They care a lot.
Yeah.
Because they were bitching about how much Tony offered them, and then they decided, hey, we really want. Someone just texted us that thinks Garcia might be leaving. We don't know. If I were him, I wouldn't leave. I don't think he fits into the NXT system.
Honestly, his dance will get over. I'm telling you. Like he'll do the dance.
He'll do the dance.
And it'll get over. But that's what he's gonna be though. He's gonna be a geek. Like a dancing fool.
I just don't think he's got a small frame, and he's not Ben. What do they call Ben Carter? Nathan Frazier. Yeah. Like he's not a high flyer. He's got some fire, but I don't think he's particularly charismatic. I think that he showed a lot of heart and fire in that MJF match and showed that he could be an undersized babyface. But in the land of the giants, I don't know. I mean, Bryan Danielson proved he could do it, but Bryan Danielson, I think, I know for a fact, has a much bigger personality than Daniel Garcia. I don't know, man. I don't know.
I really do think he would get over in NXT just fine. But that's it.
Yeah.
Ethan
Page over NXT, like that ain't hard.
Yeah. So I think that he would come in. They'd probably do a title thing, and I think he really would get over. If I were him, if I were advising him, I would say, get all the Tony Khan is throwing money around like it's crazy. Get some of that money. He's gonna outbid WWE for your services. But I could see why he would want to go to NXT. There's a lot of people there that maybe he can get close to. And really have a lot of fun with in that company.
You think that I see this like he should sign with NXT because they got a lot of hot chicks there, and I'm like, I think it's a massive step down for him career wise because I think that let's be real, Ethan Page is never leaving NXT.
No,
like, and if he goes to the roster, he's like a lesser Bobby Roode, you know.
I think they brought him in to be a kind of a player coach anyway, so he's probably happy to do that. He didn't have to travel. I think he already lives in Orlando, so he just drives to work once a week and then comes in and does training and stuff and helps train the young guys. I think that's a good spot for him. So I don't know. I don't know what's going through the guy's head, but if he just squeezing these people out of money, more power to him. Get paid, young man. Get paid.
Absolutely. I think now I think some other people should be looking to go back to WWE pretty soon. Perhaps Miro. Or is Miro
did we not? Yeah, we didn't talk about Miro last week. I did a whole thing on him on Brace for Impact because it had just broken. What are your thoughts about Miro asking for his release? Do you think Tony should give it to him?
Miro, yeah, I should. I totally think he should. They haven't used him in over a year. He had a good run initially. He really did. Like the Redeemer character, it got over, it worked. Miro's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Like Tony signed a lot of people. Like we have a friend who said that Vince would poison the well that Vince would poison the well and release some people that would be malcontents in that locker room. And boy, you got it. If it didn't work. I think that the people who aren't happy there should leave. Like it should be allowed to leave because remember when Jim Cornette used to bitch about All Friends Wrestling? All friends are all just happy. Nobody wants to make money. And then everybody was miserable. And it was, look at how miserable everybody is over there. They can't run anything. So it's like, you can't have it both ways, but they're both fucking pieces of shit. So like, that's how it goes. So I think that you should release Miro. If you don't want to be there and he keeps shitting on every time they pitch him an idea. He's like, I don't want to do that. It cost him his marriage. Like let the guy go.
Yeah. I'm always of the opinion, like even in the military, we typically hold people to their contracts, but I'm very much like, I'm not into recruiting hostages, right? If you want to come in, you want to be a part of this thing, you want to be happy, great. If you're going to be a malcontent, you can go be a malcontent somewhere else, especially if you're not like a tippy top guy. Now it's different. Like if John Moxley walks in one day, is like, I want my release. Like, okay, no, because that's a difference maker. If that guy, you really give that guy a conditional release and he goes to WWE, you're fucking yourself over and you're helping out the competition. That's different. But a guy like Miro, it's like, oh, okay, you're just gonna sit in Bulgaria for a year and get paid 6 figure or 7 figures, whatever it is. Just release the guy, let him go. Like, and we I know on our show, and I know it was like a popular thing on like some of the message boards. People still do message boards, but Discords and Twitter. When when guys like Andrade and Buddy Murphy and Mustafa Ali and all these other guys and FTR were asking for their release from WWE, we were saying the same thing about them, and we were saying that they're being held hostage, although I don't like using that word anymore. But we were saying WWE is bad for holding these guys against their will when they want to leave and go elsewhere. I don't know that Tony's going to release him or not, but I would say if he refuses to release the guy out of spite and pettiness, I would say that I criticize WWE for doing the same thing, so I think he's owed that same criticism. So just release the guy.
So here's what I'll push back on that. I think at the time when with WWE, they make them come to the shows and they make them sit there. Right. So at that point, I'm like, all right, if you're not going to let the guys work and they have to travel, let them go. Triple H and those guys created problems in that locker room. Like he called people and actively told them, if you can get a release, we'll come back. Like they actively tried to disrupt the workflow over there. So, I mean, so I can kind of get Tony go, nope, just go home.
Yeah.
Which is what he did. So, I mean, like
those guys are getting paid very well to eat very good food and catering.
They don't know this thing. Like they don't even eat catering. They don't come to the shows.
Right.
The guys in WWE eat catering and just I understand wanting to work.
Yeah.
But I also can get on board with the soft suspension if you're going to be a shit stirrer in the locker room. And at that point, they had a lot of shit stirrers in the AEW locker room.
Is it really suspension if you're still getting paid? I know you can get paid. You can get suspended with pay.
I said soft suspension.
Yeah.
Because why would you, but that causes legal problems. Why would you suspend them? What grounds do you have to suspend people?
Yeah. You really don't. Unless he's doing something like if his only sin is turning down creative ideas, and who are we to judge whether or not those were good or not?
True.
You know what I mean? Then at the end of the day, if you guys can't work together, you can't work together. And you're just gonna look. I think he's an idiot for asking for his release because he's getting paid to sit at home. That's awesome. But he might have that itch again, and he's like, I think I can contribute, and people are forgetting about me, and we are. And so he leaked to whoever, probably Sat or somebody, that he's asking for his release. I think Tony should just give it to him because I don't think it's I think it only does good for your company to get rid of a guy like that.
At this point, I would agree with you. When they were calling people and saying you should get your release, you should get your release, you should get your release, sowing seeds of discontent.
Yeah.
I at the time, and I said this at the time, I said, no, screw him.
Yeah.
Because again, you had a real problem in your locker room. Now, all of a sudden, the locker room in AEW isn't so leaky anymore. Like we have people in certain spots that aren't getting leaked information that they used to get. I wonder why that is. I wonder who could have changed. I wonder what cult of personality could have been stirring shit. Yeah. So, like, it seems to me there are not as many problems there anymore. Now, the company's a lot colder, so I mean, like, their mission was accomplished. Like, right? They took them down a peg.
They did. They really did poison the well.
They did.
We're gonna send these assholes, Miro and Andrade. They didn't send Punk over there, but Tony willingly signed Punk himself. But
we talked about that, how they had to do that at the time.
Yeah. No. I 10 times out of 10, I would have done the same thing.
And Punk's proven to be nothing but a hypocrite.
Yeah.
Like Punk is nothing but a tremendous hypocrite. And he's shown it time again. Like, I'll never go back to WWE. I hate to, I've come back to professional wrestling, and everything was super rah-rah AEW until he left. And he's like, and it's the same stuff. Like at some point, the problem isn't with everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to make progress when you're carrying around a bunch of bullshit. Speaking of bullshit, Malakai Black's contract is set to expire soon. This is coming from one Raj Giri. Just breaking the story. So we'll take that one with a grain of salt. But apparently his deal, his new report suggests Black's contract that actually is set to expire early next year. AEW, this is according to Raj, is working hard to re-sign Black, and sources indicate that there is a significant interest from outside AEW. I wonder what outside AEW means, including WWE.
Where his wife works?
Yeah.
Let him go.
Yeah. I mean, like, I was surprised to see him sign Saraya, and then I wasn't surprised to see that this report was coming out that Malakai Black's contract was coming up. I was surprised that Raj is saying that Tony Khan is trying to re-sign him because he's another guy.
Okay, let's
lesser extent.
Hold on. Saraya we haven't heard bad news about Saraya. Saraya's been a team player and has been. We haven't heard any bad words about Saraya, so she
just stinks.
She's terrible, but she's probably well liked, and like you want to have people around that are well liked. Like this is a controversial statement on wrestling fans, but having good people around makes your work environment better. Like sometimes people aren't great at their job, but they're generally enjoyable to be around and they make work more fun. Maybe she's one of those people and people generally like having her around, in which case, okay, I get it. Yeah. Malakai Black ain't that guy. Like that guy makes people miserable. So, now here's what I was going to say. Is Tony Khan actively working to re-sign him, or is that what Raj is saying that that's what Malakai is telling him to up his value to WWE?
Yes. Like I said, the report come from Raj Giri. All right. Not exactly a reputable investigative journalist, right? Very much guy. He reports fast. If you report fast nationals, you have no dignity, right? Like he's a gentle guy and he's probably helping out Malakai Black here to up his stock.
Remember when our old boss texted us, I can't believe Raj hasn't blocked you two yet.
Yeah. Malakai looks like his deal is coming up. Who knows what that's going to look like. AJ Styles' WWE contract is expiring soon. Many within the industry believe his contract set to expire either later this year or early in 2025. This is according to Fightful Select. He said Styles may be considering his next step, with AEW rumored to be a potential landing spot. Again, AJ Styles, one of my all-time favorites, also pushing 50.
Looks great for 50.
Yeah. He's got some science going on there.
Those creams you rub into your body, like they really help. I love AJ Styles. He's one of my all-time favorite wrestlers. Like I remember 2016 when he debuted in the Rumble, it was like a massive moment. As a fan, that was one of those moments that as a fan of pro wrestling, you felt like vindicated, like, oh, they get it. They signed one of our guys. He's had a solid career there. If he decides to leave, cool. He had nothing to prove. I don't want him in. If this is 2019 when the company started and they almost signed AJ, we've heard those stories. Yeah. Different story. Now.
Yeah, it's like, again, it's the Bobby Lashley thing. I love Bobby Lashley.
Mm-hmm, me too.
I want something different from AEW. That's why I started following the company, because they were going to do something different. Now, are you going to tell me that maybe I can get a Bryan Danielson versus AJ Styles match with the governor chip off, and not being overproduced by some hack? Would I be into that? Of course I'd be into that. But I just don't know that this company, that's the direction this company needs to go in.
Now, I'll say this. When they have brought in WWE guys, very rarely are they pushed, like these guys, very rarely are they pushed to the top. You could say they want something different. Dude, I watched Swerve Strickland and Adam Page stick needles in each other. Like, that's different. Like, say what you want about AEW. That is not WWE. So, I mean, and the guys that have had success in this company transitioning, your John Moxleys, your Swerve Stricklands, guys who are willing to reinvent themselves and do something different. Even Chris Jericho to an extent. Adam Copeland even, right? Came in and we were kind of, before he was an idiot, I thought he was having a tremendous run. AEW. He at that point in the company before he was probably my favorite guy to watch on AEW TV for a while there, because he really had found a new gear in himself. So I don't want to crap on everybody that wants to come over here, but I mean, like, a lot of miles on AJ's body,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, it's just another guy pushing 50 coming into the company that's already got probably too many people. Now, I'm not saying like business wise, Tony shouldn't be signing all these people. It's his money. He's getting ready to sign a new TV deal. He has the money to do it. So have fun, get paid, talent, whatever you're gonna do. I'm just like, I just don't know that. I don't know. This isn't what I want out of Dave.
I agree. Now, I don't think
I'd rather him go around the indies and find young, fresh talent that's exciting.
I mean, they do have young, fresh talent that's exciting. Like, they just signed Michael Oku, who we haven't even had a chance to look at yet, right? No. So there are young, fresh guys. Like, Hologram is over with the AEW fan base. Like, people dig that guy. So I mean, like, they do have those guys. You can't push those dudes right away. So I mean, like, I do think they are doing that. And at the same, and I get why they need TV ratings. So I get why they want to bring in some of these WWE guys. I understand. I don't think they have too many guys, because they do cycle people in and out, right? there is like not necessarily an off season, but guys disappear for months at a time because that's the way he wants it. Like we have to just accept the fact that people are going to disappear from AEW TV and they have a next man up AEW TV and they have a next man up attitude. Like that's just the way this company goes, right? They do work in time off for almost all of their featured players. So I do think it can work in that regard. Now, here's what I would want. If you're going to bring AJ in, bring him in for like a 4-month run and let him put over Will Ospreay and a big pay-per-vieiew. And then he gets to ride off into the sunset. I'm okay with that. I don't want to see a 5-year deal with AJ Styles where he's taking TV time away from Kyle Fletcher or Michael Oku, something like that.
I think they should do more of that. Kind of like what TNA would do.
Yeah.
They would bring, like how they brought in Jonah for 6 months and then he went back. And then they would bring in other people for like 3 or 4 months at a time and sign these short-term contracts. They give them a push to the main event and they would just leave.
We just got a text from a friend of ours that said All Elite Witness Protection Program.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. All right, guys. Hey, that was all the stories that I have. So let's go ahead and go to the chat. I have not gone to the chat very much tonight. The chat was not really booming all that much, but John Muse is in the chat.
Oh, hey.
Which the Piper face turn came right after someone stabbing him because of how much heat he had.
Piper got stabbed a couple times, didn't he?
I'm sure he did. He probably got stabbed once and like it was a flesh wound, but told everybody like I got stabbed 36 times. For
wrestler stories, yeah.
That wrestler stories are oftentimes old fishing stories, which you're gonna like when you watch the Vince doc, you're gonna get the typical every Hulk Hogan story you've ever heard. And then he finally told the truth about something one time. Finally, he revealed the truth on something that we've known forever, but he has been denying it, and he finally admitted to doing something dastardly in the documentary.
Spoiler.
Spoil it? Okay. So I can't remember if it was episode 2. Episode 2. Hulk Hogan admitted that he was the one that ratted out Jesse Ventura for starting a union.
Oh, we all knew that.
But he never admitted it. Yeah. He denied it for 40 years.
I believe Jesse. Like I just did. I mean, Jesse's crazy, but like that made perfect sense when he told that. So
yeah. Let's see. Name cannot be blank. I like the idea of running Morocco Piper angle. Hell, I thought that they should have ran the Funk Flair angle to get to this match. Well, they ran the Funk Flair angle for Moxley and
Danielson. Like they did that, so they're doing that. You can't blame them for not running the Flair Funk angle. We're in the middle of it.
Yeah. Transferring heat.
I hope we get the what was it called, Thunderdome match where with a caught on fire, Muda had to put it out with the mist. That's one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
Yeah. You ain't the only one tired of the Bucks. The match didn't pick up until Ospreay got in, and then the no sell, no kick out got the crowd. Yeah, I mean the crowd was all over for that stuff. They love that stuff. They eat it.
God loves that. People love kick out of too.
Kata. I don't know how to pronounce your name, sir, but did you guys watch the McMahon documentary? I actually was able to finish it this morning. We will be talking about it on patreon.com/the Mike and JD show. We'll do a full review. This coming up Sunday night. So stay tuned for that. Transferring heat did the math. Hurt Business combined age. I don't think combined age. I think you mean average age is. He said combined age 147. I didn't see the number one.
If the average age is 147, they would all be around 150 years old. They'd have fought in the Civil War.
They'd be parting the Red Sea and shit like that. So, okay, let me see. Norbert says Darby Allin is the new Crow. Well, he's definitely the new Sting. That's for sure.
Definitely the new Sting.
Yeah,
he is babyface in wrestling.
Yeah, he is definitely a dumb baby face. John Muse says, Brody King singles push, please.
Sign me up.
No, we need to bring in AJ Styles. Fuck Brody King. We need to bring in Bobby Lashley. We don't need more Brody King and all these other guys. We need more guys from WWE television to take up TV time. We can't be having these fresh stars getting over. Can't be doing it, guys.
Bummer.
Kata says AJ Styles does not need to be pushed in another company. Very talented at his age. No, I think at the end of the day, he's going to re-sign with WWE. I think he's alive.
I don't think he's going. He's spoken about being very happy at WWE, so I don't think he's going anywhere either.
Yeah, but hey, guys, I think that's going to do it for us. We're clocking in just under 60 minutes. We did not go over, so thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate everybody. Head to patreon.com/the Mike and JD show. So I got a couple things on Patreon. So last week on Patreon, you guys can tell that I'm out of school right now and I'm taking the semester off because of the of the baby coming. So I've been doing a lot of writing on the Patreon. So last week I did a TNA article detailing the main event of Bound for Glory before the episode tonight of TNA Impact, where Joe Hendry defeated Frankie Kazarian to win the number one contendership spot to go to face Nick Nemeth at the Bound for Glory. Well, I had read the spoilers and I went ahead and gave my thoughts and did a whole article on Patreon last week. I'm actually going to I'm going to update that one now that I'll be able to watch the match tonight, and then I will condense it down and I'm going to put it on the free tier of the Patreon for you guys to be able to check that out with now that the match is over and there's no spoilers to be spoiled. I also, like I said, I opened the show with a full-blown attendance recap of TNA's 2024, detailing their resurgence both before the NXT partnership and after the NXT partnership, and you can see where that big jump is, and I'll tell you what the turning point of the entire year for TNA was. That's on patreon.com/the Mike and JD show. I'll also be back with Brace for Impact this Saturday morning, recapping tonight's episode and whatever news breaks. TNA had tapings this weekend, Friday and Saturday in Spartanburg, South Carolina, but it got hurricaned out. So they had to postpone the tapings to Sunday, Monday. So we'll see if they actually get to those tapings. I don't know how that's going to work out, but I hope everybody stays safe over there in the hurricane, eye of the hurricane there in South Carolina. JD, you got anything for us before we head out?
I am so tired of grad school.
Yeah. Well, once JD's out of grad school, hopefully we'll get some more stuff coming to the Patreon. But until then, and until this weekend, JD and I are out. Mahalo.
Competition starting to get thick. It's the click, so I hope you watch your A game. Amen.
Do you like wrestling trivia? Then check out the 5-Star Match Game, the Pro Wrestling Quiz Show. I'm Joe Gagney, and every episode, I grill 3 contestants with 5 rounds of power-packed wrestling trivia. We have over 30 evergreen episodes in the archives covering WWE, AEW, Japan, Mexico, and much, 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 much more. Play along at home and check it out today.